Recorded. Welcome. This is our special meeting of the Community Connectivity Grant Committee. Special meeting. It's being recorded. It's virtual on WebEx, and today is Monday, November 22nd. It is 4 o'clock. And the committee members that are here, besides myself, Mary Jo Nozel, we have Jim Lampos, Frank Papalardo, Eric Olson. We are missing Bonnie Reemsnyder, and we have Tim Griswold, who is our ex officio municipal agent. We have Kurt Procherena, BSC Group, our engineer, design engineer. At this point, it does not appear like we have any comments or any public here to comment. Just going to check this other little button. Okay. Doesn't appear we do. The next item on our agenda is communication, and that's really where, you know, most of the action between this meeting and our last meeting was. There's invoices were received, a lot of emails. There is some questions on one of the homeowners on Hartford Avenue, whether their bond was released. So I kind of think we should start there. Maybe we can get through those quickly, hopefully. Tim had sent an email regarding the outstanding invoices that came in November for BSC Group. We did not have those at our last meeting, which was November 8th. So no, Tim, we did not approve those. I did send everybody a copy of them today. There were two that fall under the non-eligible category and one that falls under the eligible for payment under the grant. Did everybody get those?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm just gonna find my pieces of paper, which I have a ton, so bear with me for a second. Just run through those for Tim. Okay. First one I have is non-eligible. It's regarding the transit hub. It's primarily Kurt's time for professional services for $4,147.50 plus some, I think it's printing costs, postage and shipping, $49.20. for a total invoice amount of $4,196.70. Does anyone have any questions on that, or would someone like to move to approve?
Is that within budget, Mary Jo? I don't have the paperwork in front of me. Do you recall?
Yes. Well, within budget, it's one of the non-eligible costs. And as you know, as you know, we went to time and materials, and so just as we go at this point. But we had estimated last, I don't know, about a 38,000 non-eligible cost for BSC Group. And yes, this is part of that 38,000, if that helps.
So we essentially projected this.
That is correct. In fact, we knew this was coming at our last meeting when we were at 33,000 and change. Hi, Bonnie. So yes, we knew about this was coming. It just wasn't here for us to approve at that point. So it was $4,196.70. Any other
You
questions?
need a motion to, I'll make a motion to accept that.
Thank you. You have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The second non-eligible invoice, also dated same date, November 10th. Professional services, again, these are design services now for Kurt's time, and it's $2,526.25. We also knew about this. We just hadn't received it at our last meeting. It reflects 10 hours and 75, almost 11 hours of Kurt's time.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Bonnie. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, thank you, guys. And last but not least, this is a construction inspection invoice. It is fully eligible under the grant. It is also dated November 10th for services, 6.75 hours Kurt and 1.75 project management time for a licensed engineer. In total of 8.5 hours for $1,761.25. Again, this is invoice we expected, we had projected was coming in. We just hadn't received it at our last meeting. Use a motion.
I'll
Make a motion.
I heard
Okay.
Eric.
Yeah.
Eric should have it.
We have a
I'll
second.
second.
Thank you. Thanks, Brent. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All eligible. Thank you, guys. I can throw those papers on the floor. All right. Okay. Tim, at our last meeting, we had recommended that you respond to the butchers based on their letter to you and that we discussed at our November 8th meeting. So one item under communication I had is, did you get that information from us properly? And did you respond, or do you plan to?
No, I haven't talked to the butchers.
Okay. That's all I need to know. Then we had some correspondence on Hartford Avenue regarding the portalances. Kurt took some time to go down there and noticed, as you and I had discussed, that they did not complete their project as per project plan. And there was some discussion about holding their bond. And I was wondering if you had an update on that.
No, I haven't been contacted by them. Have they done anything? When I've been by there, not that recently, there was no work yet.
Yeah, the work's done, Tim.
Okay,
And
And
it's not consistent with the plans then.
so when you and I had talked, it was before the work was done. So,
Yeah.
But I'd showed you that photo that it looked like they were planning to go only so far. And you were going to check to see if their bond was there and all that stuff.
well, if they infill the area between the back of sidewalk and the property line, then what happens on their side, I guess, is up to them, right?
Yeah, but they didn't fill that space up though, Tim, that apron space, which is supposed to go from the sidewalk to the property line, hasn't been completely filled with concrete. They've only got maybe half of it filled with concrete. So they did not perform the task as it was required to be performed.
Okay. Well, I'll go down and take a look because it sounds odd. So they had added concrete from the property line back into their driveway, did they?
No, only half of what was supposed to be there. It should have been like about 2.5 feet, I would imagine. And it looks like they put 18 inches worth in. They did not fill up the space.
Yeah, Kurt sent a photo to everybody. You should have that, Tim, if you want to look at that.
Okay.
Last week, I think. So I'll just put a note that you'll look into that. Right. Thank you. Frank, you had sent a note that you spoke to Mr. Pena. Is there any follow-up on that from your note?
Sorry,
That's
trying
all
to
right.
answer phones at the same time. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
You had sent everybody a note saying you had spoken to Mr. Pena. You had sent him the plans for the property under change order 3. And I was just,
Right.
if there was any follow-up from him.
I spoke with him. He wanted to know whether the contractor could reinstall the fence on his property line, and I said, you know, we could certainly talk about that. That wasn't in the plans right now. And then he said, well, what about a fence in lieu of bushes? And, I just said, well, we have the bushes planned. So that was pretty much it. He did make a subsequent phone call to me about 4 or 5 days later, but we never connected. So I don't
Okay.
know what it was about.
Okay, all right. So then I guess the next item under communication, Tim had sent everyone a budget, his format of the budget, which is different than the way we've been tracking it. It's how he is tracking the costs of the project. I don't really understand it, to be frank with you, Tim, but I think everyone kind of budgets their own way, and we've been budgeting one way. The bottom line that I have is a little different than what you have, but we've been tracking this the way we've been working with PSC to track at eligible and ineligible costs. And, the numbers I come up with are slightly different than yours for the ineligible costs and the total project costs. But I think I have to look up it. I think I had 437,000 in total with change order number 3. So as far as the ineligible costs, the only difference that I saw on your budget versus what we were tracking was we had been including the advertising cost for the RFPs, and in your last iteration of what you sent me, that wasn't on there, so I took that off mine. Okay. Any other comments on that?
Well, I think this piece is going to be important because as we move forward, we've got to agree on where we are. Are you saying that your figures are much different than those that I submitted?
What I said was, I don't really understand how you're doing it exactly. But
I'm tracking all the stuff that we've
well,
paid.
I came up with the way we've been tracking it. We had what you had received from the committee was 390,210 for the total project costs that were eligible, and we'd be returning to the DOT $9,790. And then for ineligible costs, which included BSC's non-eligible costs of up to 38,000. That was based on an estimate from Kurt. The legal costs, which again, this committee's never seen, of $7,575. Printing for seal is 52, for a total of 45,627 ineligible, meaning if I add those both together, total project is 435,837. So if you round that up to 436,000, that's what I came up with. And I think you were saying we should go to appropriate 50,000. I don't come up with that. So
Well, the contingency in there because I don't think there's any contingency.
yes, there is.
All right. Well, maybe you and I can go through it. I sent this out with the hopes that we can reconcile. I looked at that sheet that Kurt put out.
Yeah.
Which I really have trouble reconciling what those numbers are. So,
Well, you've spent time with Kurt. He's walked through it. I'm kind of hesitant. This group has a short amount of time. If you need more conversation with him on that, that's fine.
if the committee has a figure for an appropriation, maybe run with it and see what happens. I'm trying to put it, what we have spent. The first page includes everything that the town has paid for. And the second page is anticipating what will be paid.
Mhm.
I think we're looking at, the rest of Livero's payments. Kurt and I discussed whether we want to have the change order 3 be part of the transit hub. And the same with Teddy's, which I'm calling change order 4. And then trying to estimate what will be spent by BSC for, from November to the end of the project in the way of engineering, which is the combined $9,000. So I think everything else is the retainage and the transit hub, splitting out the change orders. So I think it should be pretty easy to reconcile one for the other and coming up. The only new thing is that if contingency going forward, which, if we have coming around the corner in the new year, I think it's wise to have a contingency. So
Okay. All right, well,
do it.
I just wanted to communicate, go under communication, address all the communication. Now I think we can move on to the project update and next steps. We'll start with the transit hub. I know everyone got the budget. I know everyone knows we got approval from the DOT to move forward with the eligible costs of the project. I'm glad that Frank was able to touch base with Mr. Pina, one of the abutters. So we were waiting on Tim rather, to sign off on change order 3, which encompassed everything we've basically done since August. And also a little piece of repair work that the DOT approved at Teddy's Pizza. Tim does not feel comfortable signing that change order number 3. So now we're left with a lot of questions, given that it's almost Thanksgiving, whether this is even going to be feasible to happen, get done. If the DOT will even approve extending the grant till next year. If our engineering firm and if our construction firm will even work with us next year, if we'd have to go get new RFPs, I mean, all of that comes into play. Not the least of which is, does this group want to continue? Because we've been working really hard since 2019 on this. So I'm throwing all that out there for discussion.
Mary Jo, would the spring be considered a next year to the state, or would that be within the same year we're working in? If I remember correctly, the project, we accepted the funding sometime in the summer. And so when they were talking about extending dates, it was usually from year to year. So let's say from July to July. And it seems to me that this, and maybe Kirk can comment on this, it seems to me that this wouldn't be a major project once we were approved within town and once we, got shovels in the ground. So if we can work out these details, it seems that we may not be in an extension period, but still within the same period. Kurt, do you know at all, or?
The last time we communicated with the state, we did have the question about the grant, because I think there was a concern that we were starting to push up against its time limit, which off the top of my head, I can't remember what it was. And their reply was, don't worry about it, because you're in construction. That's fine. We know that you're moving forward and that you're going to finish up. We're not going to cut you off. what I need to do is contact the state and ask them if we stop for the winter and want to re-engage in the spring, will you let us keep going? Or because we stop, are they going to say, well, your time has expired? So I'll make that call tomorrow. I didn't get a chance to today. I was at a conference, but I'll call them tomorrow and ask the question.
I would think that there should be, I mean, from a practicality standpoint, you can't pour concrete when it's difficult to pour concrete when it's freezing out, and the asphalt plants are going to shut down soon. So even if we wanted to continue on, I'm not sure we'd be able to with the weather closing in. So I would think the DOT is going to take that into consideration when they talk about this thing.
I would hope so.
It's all bid. I mean, we're all set. It's a weather issue right now, I would imagine.
Well, it's a town issue too,
Right.
getting the approval in town too. So we're not approved on our end.
Right.
So when, Tim, my question to Tim is, when do you want to go for this additional funding, and when will that get approved so we can give everybody the go-ahead to
Well,
move on?
we haven't even agreed on the amount of the appropriation.
Well, you just said you want to go for not to exceed $50,000
Well,
based on your
I'm hearing
numbers.
from Mary Jo that her numbers don't jive with my numbers, and I'm trying to make this as clear as possible. So we ought to get together in person or something and work this out, because if we don't agree on the appropriation number, then we're not going to move very much forward.
Tim, my number's less than yours, so.
What?
My numbers are less than yours.
Yeah,
So if, as Frank said, if you're going for a not to exceed, that should well cover.
yeah.
what
Well,
we-
I'm putting in a contingency, and I just can't imagine that we wouldn't want to have a contingency in there. You're
do.
saying there is one, but it shouldn't be that tough to take whatever figures you guys have and relate them to what I put together, because my stuff is based on what we've paid and what we know are pending bills and a contingency. So it should be easy to reconcile.
Good. At the budget you've been getting has a $5,000 contingency, $5,000 incidentals on it.
So that's already been included, Tim, is what you're saying. I think that you added on the second time.
Yeah. We have, I mean, I can send it to you again, but be happy.
I'm trying, I looked at that sheet. Kurt and I were talking about that second sheet, which has, and I said, I'm puzzled by it. So we need to maybe, Mary Jo, you and I need to sit down, and I don't want to take Kurt's time doing this, but if we can get this reconciled, I think that's important. The contingency I have is 15 grand. If you have 10,000 in contingency, we have a bigger than $5,000 spread, I guess. So I'm not sure where it is. If you have
So once
all
we get-
the
once-
same actual
once we-
expenses that I have, if you aren't including some of the stuff I've expensed, then that could be some of the issue too.
You know, Tim, I've been sending you everything that we discussed at our meetings, and you've been through most of our meetings, and then I've copied Nicole. I'm not sure where the disconnect is there.
Well, I think that, okay, I understand your sheet, Mary Jo. I'm trying to understand Tim's sheet. I think that we should be able to mesh the numbers together and figure out where the disconnect is. So my question is, once we mesh the numbers together, assuming, Tim, that we're going to be somewhere between the 37,000 and the 48,000, which I think is your number, what's our next step? Once we all agree on that, what's our next step? We go for an additional appropriation for the town meeting in January?
You'd start
Okay.
with the selectmen, you go to finance, go to town meeting. Now, there is a definitely scheduled town meeting in January, as we all know, but if we need a special town meeting, that can be done pretty much at discretion.
So have you talked to Matt or Martha on this? Do you think there's any issues here?
No, the new board took over after the last selectmen's meeting, so I think we could get them up to speed. They're both new to it, but I think we can explain it. The version I have indicates that we would use all the grant except for about 15,000, I guess. So not too bad. And so I think a town meeting with the proper explanation, you know,
Doable.
some of the summer residents don't like it when we have town meetings in the winter, but this is giving money, not taking money.
So, I mean, I think our last discussion, Mary Jo, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we ended up with about $7,000 or $8,000, not 15,000. That may be part of the problem. After we accounted for all of the
Yeah,
change order rate.
$9,790. Print is very small on this for me today. 9,790 returned to Conduct.
So there might be some of the issue there. The change order 3 did include the Teddy's modification and the sidewalk modification to the property to create that new ramp across the street from the church. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay. So we will need to do either separate those things out or put it as a total change order 3.
Kurt, we also discussed about maybe doing the Teddies and the ramp as change orders and getting it done. I know I was by Teddy's over the weekend and he was very eager not to have that job wait until spring because you'll get ice and all that stuff. So if we delay on if we're able to delay on the bus shelter, if we could get the change order 3 and 4 so-called done while they're doing, you know, if Lavero's down here doing work on Hartford Avenue or other places with the sidewalk job, maybe they'd be in a position to knock those 2 change orders out.
Yeah, I have no problem preparing those 2 change orders. We already have the materials required. That'd be pretty easy. The ramp at the crosswalk, the church crosswalk, is critical path that has to get done. And if the committee wants me to proceed, I can also take care of that for Teddy's. The one item that I need to do is reach out to the contractor to see if those costs would change because they would now be standalone bits of work, and I can easily do that in the morning. Hopefully he'll get back to me, but I can have those change orders done tomorrow. And that would be my recommendation because I think the ramp across, we have to get that completed because right now it's not compliant without a ramp on the other side of the crosswalk.
Is Laverio, are they on scene to do some stuff before the end of the season with Hartford Avenue or Route 156?
I think, and I don't know this for sure, but I think they've completed their work on the sidewalk corrections and the remaining items were relocating a few signposts and things like that. So I think at this point they're done, but I will confirm that tomorrow.
But also, I would think that we also would want to look at Port Lance's driveway apron too, Tim, because if that's a situation where they're not going to make the proper apron, then we may have to do it ourselves and charge them back.
Yeah, if he's done a schlock job, yeah.
Well, they did a very nice job. They just didn't do enough of it. Should have been about 2.5 feet, and it looks like it was only did like 12 to 18 inches worth.
Tim, do you know if, or has the bond been released that they had to provide, or the contractor provided for the Port Lands?
I am not familiar with that. I mean, that's usually handled upstairs with planning and zoning, so I'll have to check with that. He was to do the insurance certificate and a cash bond. for the amount of the job. So that was the agreement before anything happened.
So we shouldn't release, the town shouldn't release that then, since it wasn't done properly, is what we're,
No. Tomorrow I'll check the status of all that, and I'll give them a call, I'll have a look-see and see why they have not done it. We all know what had to be done.
okay.
Thank you. So I guess it sounds as if the committee needs to vote on whether we have Kurt, once he gets the fee, maybe we do this tonight since we don't have another meeting, assuming that Laverio has to come back or will come back, and will hold the costs as given to us for change order 3, the large change order 3, whether they would agree to come back, hold their pricing for the repair at Teddy's and the ramp.
So we're gonna have to have another meeting to approve this once we get the revised change orders. Am I correct?
Well, I'm wondering if we could set a motion that, you know, if the pricing holds as currently projected, if the committee can approve it, assuming they can come back. The original change order 3 was for work to be completed by December 3rd. That's what Kurt had sent to Tim, and we were all copied on that. So if we could make a motion that the committee would approve Kurt producing change order for the ramp and change order for the repair at Teddy's, given the current pricing, then we wouldn't have to meet just for that.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense. So,
3,500 and 2,250.
So I'll make a motion that Kurt amends the change order to just be those 2 projects. And if the funding or the pricing stays the same, then that can move forward with those 2 items.
Thank you.
Second that.
I'd like to make a modification to that.
Okay.
Not just those 2 items that we revised the change orders to 3 separate change orders, 1 for Teddy's, 1 for the ramp, and 1 for the hub. And if the pricing of all 3 remain the same, then we move forward. If they're gonna pull the hub out and all of a sudden increase our price significantly on that, I think we need to at least talk about it.
Well, the hub would not be authorized to proceed at the same timetable as the 2 little ones, 3 and 4, right?
No, but this would be a matter of breaking the change orders out into
Yeah.
3 separate change orders. Not that we're going to proceed with the hub, but we're going to proceed with just the Teddy's and for the ramp.
I think his motion covers that, because the motion, as I understand it, was to have Kurt proceed with a change order for the 3,500 and I think it was the 2,250. And if the price remains the same, we're approving those 2. We're not saying anything about the hub.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think that the transit hub, as it's being pushed off, that pricing might change, and we'd have to address that, again, once springtime comes. So if we can lock in the cost of those 2 small things right now and get them done, that's what my motion would be for.
We have Eric made a motion. Bonnie seconded it. We've had some discussion. Any further discussion?
Well, I understand Kurt, I understand Eric wants to lock in the first 2. I would lock in all 3. To be honest with you, I would prefer to see if we can lock in Laverio to all 3. and then approve the work for 1 and 2, and then leave the third one off until the spring once we get final appropriations.
Maybe that should be a separate motion. Or not for the hub.
Okay, we can make it a separate motion.
Yeah, I think because Tim is not going to sign the change order for the hub until we have the funding from the town for the additional appropriation, what date could Kurt possibly put on that? Because we don't know when the town meeting would be and if it's even approved. We're going to have to wait to get a change order for that until, I would think, until the town meeting and the additional money is approved.
Yeah, and if Lavero doesn't hold these costs, then these two change orders are moot anyway. They move into the same change order that the hub is at then again. I also think that there's going to be some costs that we'll have to pick up for them to demobilize and remobilize, and I'm sure we'll have to pick those costs up too. One of Lavero's emails had said that the trees were in, so I don't know what they do with the trees in the meantime. So I think Bonnie's right. I think if we can agree to talk about these new change orders for Teddy's, the 2250, and the ramp, the 3500, and then move on to the transit hub desires, that might make it cleaner.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay. So Eric, do you want to restate your motion for the record?
Okay, I'll make a motion that Kurt produces change order 3 and 4 if he wants to do it two separate or just in one for the apron and sidewalk across from the church, and then the repair work at Teddy's. And if the pricing holds as stands today, then that work can can move forward and the committee approves.
Thank you.
And I'll restate my second.
Thank you, Bonnie. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Okay. So Kurtz, it sounds like you've got a little bit of discretion there. You can either make it 2 change orders or 1 change order. But the issue is that we would like to have that done and the pricing held. And I think the back assumption on that is that they have to come back and maybe do a couple things down there anyway. So hopefully they can hold their pricing.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them first thing in the morning and I'll ask them essentially 3 questions. Number 1, the $3,500 for the ramp, does that hold Teddy's? And then will they hold their transit hub costs until the spring? Kind of setting that aside, but if the ramp and the Teddy's costs are the same, I'll get those change orders out tomorrow for your signature, Tim, and then just tell the contractor, get out there as soon as you can and get the work done.
Well, we'd also need a change order in hand or in place in order to go for an appropriation so that we know what the number is for the appropriation. Because I don't want to get in this big circle again where we don't have a number, so we can't go for the appropriation. So we're going to actually have to figure out what that transit hub is going to be, the cost of it, so that could be change order 4 or 5, whatever number it happens to be. But we can go for the appropriation. We could say, here's what the future costs, projected costs are. Here's the number. It's already in a change order. And this is what we're voting on.
Well, it would be change order 5, and it would be 91,000. That's the 96,750 total. That's the 2 change orders we're pulling out.
So then we'd have to get the 5th change order, whatever number it happens to be, for the transit hub in there. I would remind Lavero that we're still waiting on signposts that haven't shown up, that he knew about since, since the beginning of the year. And that the stop sign at Swan Avenue Extension still hasn't been fixed. There's other odds and ends up there that still haven't been done,
Right. And I want to get into that in just a second in the punch list, because that's really important.
Yeah.
But I want to add to our current discussion the fact that, Kurt, if their pricing holds, does the committee have to include contingency on this work?
Do you mean if material costs change or those kinds of things?
Just for the work, and yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we, if you recall, we have the 5,000 and the 5,000. One
Yeah.
was contingency, one was incidentals. My personal feeling is that if the work started in the spring, because it is a fairly small scale of the work, I think the 5,000 would still be a valid contingency.
Okay, so I guess it's 2 points. Looking at the budget for change order 3 that we had, we included 5,000 for incidentals, 5,000 for contingency for change order associated with all the work on change order 3. Now we're breaking that up. Do we need to pad a little for change order 3 and 4 for the ramp and Teddy's if it goes forward? Do we need to put something in that? And then whatever's left, are you saying we should have enough for doing transit hub?
Yeah, I feel that because the work at Teddy's and the ramp is so well defined, I think we don't need any contingency, because the odds of finding something that is an unknown condition or something are so remote. We're not digging deep. They're so defined in what they are. I really don't think we need contingencies on there.
All right.
So we could sort of just transfer that contingency, or I should say, keep it with just the transit hub.
Okay, thank you.
And then, so one suggestion is if you did need something formal to bring to a town meeting or something, we do have that detailed spreadsheet that we have finalized at the last meeting. I could literally give that back to Martin Leviero like I did before and tell them, if they indicate, well, yes, we think some things may go up in cost, I can literally say, use this same sheet and show us specifically what the cost changes are. And then we can update that sheet, and that sheet is your formal summary of all costs associated with the transit hub from the contractor.
Okay.
I think we do that, Kurt, and I think we ought to go in with the expectation that there will be no change in price. If we give them the opportunity to change the price, they're going to change the price, and then how do we know whether that price adjustment is justifiable or not? And I don't want to start pulling receipts. What was your costing on item A, and then what's your costing on the same item 6 months later? So we have the authority to do that because it is a state contract, but I don't think we want to go into that level of detail if we don't have to. So I would go in with the expectation that they're, especially since the trees are already there, that we're going to assume that there's going to be no change in costing.
Yeah, agree. And I'd like to suggest that we pick a date of something like March 15th or something that they could remobilize, just so they can at least base it on something versus, it could push into June or something.
Yeah.
Well, town meeting is in January. The worst possible case town meeting, if we don't go for a meeting sooner, is January, 25th or something around there, Tim?
Okay, so that works anyway then.
Yeah.
So essentially,
know-
as soon as the weather
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
warm enough, they can mobilize.
Yeah, earliest
And
possible.
I did want to highlight, and Mary Jo, thank you for bringing that up. Dan from Martin Laviero, he had sent an email Friday asking about the status of change order 3, and he did indicate, he said, all trees are in and ready to be installed. I don't know what that means. I didn't see any trees when I was out there on Tuesday of last week. But
Today,
I will, okay, so I will find out, when you say all trees are in, have they been dug? In which case, that could be a, I don't know how, or if trees can overwinter after they've been dug, but I will gather that information and email you, Mary Jo.
thank you. Okay. So-
Kurt,
Oh,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
Kurt, saying that Laviero's already started procuring materials for the transit hub ahead of our signing of change order 3.
I don't know that for sure, but based on his email, I'm almost inferring that they procured the trees,
Mm-hmm.
but I will certainly confirm.
Okay, so to Frank's point about another meeting, we probably will have to have one since based on what we find out this week, but we'll go from there. Any other questions on the transit hub? Can I show of hands whether we still want to do the transit hub?
Oh, most definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Was that Eric?
yes.
Jim?
I'm a no on it, actually. I'm feeling, and I know I'm the guy that first proposed it, and I think it's a good idea. And I really appreciated that Frank and the committee and everyone revived it, and that we actually are almost there. I think if there was true commitment to it, we've known these soft cost numbers for quite a while. They really haven't changed. They could have been appropriated, and we could be pretty much doing a ribbon cutting in the next couple of weeks. Instead, we've sort of grounded out. We've timed out for this year. I would be shocked if Laviera is going to say, "Sure, well, I'll hold the price till next spring because everything's so uncertain now." And I personally have no appetite for going to a town meeting or a $50,000 ask from the town, $50,000 project that I think is a good project. It's a civic good. It's a civic benefit. It'll benefit everyone in our region, and it'll be good for the beach going forward, and that'll make it more accessible for people. But no one in Soundview is going to benefit from it. I mean, I'm not going to benefit from it. No resident's going to benefit from it. Or the other private beaches, we don't take buses. I mean, this is really for the public, and as a public good. And with everything that's coming down, for us to go in front of the town asking for 50 grand for a $100,000 project that won't benefit them in this environment, I think we're going to get slaughtered. Just by judging how this project was covered in the one article that was written about it 2 weeks after we broke ground, and they dragged us through the mud about how we screwed up Hartford Avenue, destroyed Western civilization, and talked to homeowners that were disgruntled. No follow-up about how it came out nicely, and judging by the way the Halls Road Committee is being dragged through the mud and whipped for being I think the quote was jeopardizing the town, or security of the town, and being incompetent. I have no appetite for going before the town with that kind of attitude that's coming from some quarters. I don't think we're getting any support whatsoever. So personally, I would just like to declare victory and just say, look, our mandate was to do these sidewalks. We did it. We brought it under budget. In our discussions through the course of the year, Tim seemed okay with sending the money back to the state. We hang up our mission accomplished banner and we go away. And if there's, any kind of forward motion for the transit hub in the future, that'd be terrific. We have the design. But, and maybe I'm just jaded, but, I just have no faith in the process to move forward on this.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate your comments very much. Anybody else?
Well,
I
I'll
think
just
that-
add in, I understand where, Jim's point, and all those things that you brought up, Jim. The unfortunate thing, the town has to pay that money, you know what I mean? Already, there's no, there's no going back. And what we're trying to do is just utilize the rest of that grant. And probably the problem that would happen is people wouldn't realize that. They would look at it as you just said, we're asking for 50,000 to do 100,000 project, which it's not. It's, the
Right.
total project is 400,000 and we're asking for 50,000 to cover the town's expenses, just over 10%, which
Right.
that's a pretty good return on investment, I think. But
Yeah.
I understand your
Yeah,
point.
I
No,
think Eric, you bring up a good point. This is the return on investment, and I understand Jim's personal feeling. You kind of get beat up so many times, you say to yourself, is it all worth it? I think it'd be fiscally irresponsible for us to throw in the towel at this point in time and not achieve that this additional town asset, which is what we're looking at here. It's a significant town asset, and I think that the funding is there, and it's just a matter of shuffling some dollars and cents from one side of the line to another side of the line. It's not really costing the town anything anymore. I think it's a matter of presentation and getting the information appropriately put into context for the town. There will be people that are going to be going to have a problem with it at a town meeting, but I think once it's explained properly and everything's put into context, it should be something that's doable, especially if the three selectmen recommend it.
I haven't weighed in. I'm going to say I'm sort of in Jim's camp, to be honest with you. I don't feel that we haven't had the support at the Board of Selectmen or Board of Finance, and been trying for a long time. And I'm very disappointed. What should have been supported as a town asset was treated like a stepchild. And threatened at meetings that, well, we've got other things coming down that are more expensive. It's been very, very hard to stay optimistic that we will get the support given the way it's been handled. And Tim, I lay that responsibility at your feet. This committee has worked really, really hard since 2019. We've gotten beat up. You come to the meetings and I've not yet heard a word about something good that you thought we did. And I'm disappointed in that. So right now, the majority of the committee wants to move forward. But I'm with Frank. If you can't support this, if you can't present it in a positive way, then I'm a no.
Well, I think I've been saying for months, let's get an appropriation number, and it hasn't been forthcoming. I've taken the time now to try to come up with it. And I think we need to reconcile what your version is with my version and get our ducks in a row, because obviously the financing is critical here. I agree that you look at the column and we spend, $5,000 on the hub. Actually 4,000 on the hub for future BSC work. There's a contingency number in there. And that's to get using all the grant money. So that's been the desire from the beginning, is to utilize as much of the grant money as possible. But it's been very elusive trying to get the appropriation number itself. And that's been my frustration.
Well, for months, you said you didn't want to go for appropriation. Let's be honest. And this is all recorded. So initially you were anti-appropriation.
I kept saying that we have 400,000 to spend and the grant's 400,000, and that's how it was laid out. So to get an appropriation,
You had a Board of Finance meeting and said you didn't want to go for appropriation. I was there. So, I mean, I'm glad.
Let's just let's move forward from this point. Let's move forward. I understand where everybody's saying, let's move forward from this point, and that we need to mesh these numbers together, come up with a number, go for the appropriation, and then come January, whatever it happens to be, it's either going to be a yay or nay.
Well, and I'd like to add, I don't think that if we can't get commitment from Martin Laverio, if BSC Group doesn't think they're going to be able to stay on board with us through the next year, that's going to be hard for me to support the project without them also.
I would agree, Mary Jo, that if Martin Lavero can't stick with us, then that's a whole different ball game. But I just want everyone to remember that the whole purpose for having the sidewalks on Hartford Avenue and on Route 156 was to be able to tie the businesses that serve the Soundview area to the beach, to the area residents, and to really make that a southern Main Street, if you will, because there are businesses down there. So it was to support businesses, and the hub will connect that South Main Street to the Halls Road and to 95. Jim, I realize you say that residents don't take the buses, but maybe something like this will have the effect of having a little bit more activity with the transit service that's already there, because it is more visible and it cleans up the area. So it does a lot of what we originally were trying to do, is to make that end of town look more like its own center, its own little mini business district. But
I agree. I mean, I'm all for it. I think it's a terrific project. I'm just talking about there's really two issues that have nothing to do with the merit of the project that we're going to be facing. Number one is people at the beaches who are more interested in, maybe the culverts or sewers coming down than they are in a transit hub and a big appropriation. That's something that we can, as Frank says, it's messaging. We could get that across. The other consideration is sort of more an internal one about the commitment to the project itself. And I think, in terms of going for an appropriation, we had this discussion with Tim a few months ago, and, I pretty much saw the writing on the wall there, where Tim was like, the appropriation is $400,000 all in, and anything that goes over that is going to be over budget. And we were waiting on construction costs to be finalized before we had this discussion. But the soft costs we had already contracted for, and those were known costs. And if there was a commitment there at that time, it could have been handled differently over 2 fiscal years where they were contracted, and they weren't. And so it became clear in the discussions I had with Tim, and these aren't value judgments now, this is just 2 different ways of looking at it, where Tim was like, we go to the 400, and if a check has to go back to the state, a check goes back to the state, that's fine. It's like, all right, that's a path, The other path would have been, hey, we've already contracted for these costs, we're going to appropriate it, the costs that were in fiscal year 20 to 21 in that year, and then an additional 18,000 or whatever for this year, and it would have worked out, and it would be built. We'd be in the process of finalizing it. So since we didn't, and now we have to go for this ask to the selectmen and then to the Board of Finance, seeing what we've been seeing in that process, unless Tim says to us, hey, I believe in this project, I'm going to help you guys get through, and we're going to try and get everyone on the page, and I'm with you, if it's going to be going hat in hand and then getting dragged through the mud, it's like, no thanks. Because I think it's going to undo all the good work that we did. It's going to be yet another, just like Hartford Avenue, Lower Hartford Avenue, the way that article that came out about Lower Hartford saying that we went over budget and we couldn't get bathrooms, which is not true. And I had to call the editor of that online newspaper and correct him. And then there was a soft correction following. This is going to end up being that we blew the budget. And the good work that we've done, all the hard work on the sidewalks and, all the other amenities is going to go out the window, because the only narrative is going to be, we blew the budget by $50,000. Now we have to go ask these poor beach residents to pony up.
I agree.
So that is what I think is going to be the narrative, given what we've seen in other quarters and our experience for this year. Now, unless I hear, some kind of commitment, like I think it's a terrific project, I think we should move forward. I mean, I obviously do. I think it's penny foolish and pound foolish not to. But, I think we could just have so much toxic blowback from this that it's going to undo the good work that we did. And it's going to be difficult to do anything else in the future.
I think Jim's asking for your buy-in, Tim. Do you support the project?
I think if we could keep the numbers as we represented by Lavero, then it won't be all of 50, because we don't expect we would use all the contingency. But I think there's good argument to say that the state money is there, and so what we get reimbursed on that. If for some reason it came out, we might revisit. If for some reason somebody thinks it's too high, we might revisit the amenities. At the, the core project was like 45,000. We embellished the property with a lot of other things. So there might be some things you could do there to make it less expensive. But I think at this point we are using the state money, and that's a good thing.
We have your buy-in on this hub, right?
Yeah, and I guess it's going to be contingent upon Lavero not blowing it up and saying, oh, that's going to be not 91,000, but it's going to be, who knows? I can't even commit. So
Assuming that it's not going to be crazy numbers here, and if we have to adjust, we can adjust. As long as we have your buy-in, and then we sit down with the rest of the selectmen and get their buy-in. I agree with Jim. I don't want to go to a town meeting unless everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, I don't want to.
We know that's not going to work. So if we're on the same page and we can get the messaging across properly, it's not costing the town any more money. It's just a matter of taking it from one side and putting it on another side. The bottom line is still the same. The bottom line, I think that messaging is going to be very important. And I think as long as we have the selectmen's backing on that, I think it's a very doable thing.
yeah.
We went through a lot of work. We went through the entire town process, very transparent. We made changes along the way. We did make, we took out things that we thought would have been nice to have, but we didn't want the budget to be strained. I mean, we made that thought process from the beginning. As you guys remember, some of the early designs were lovely, but we knew we couldn't extend the budget to include Shore Road if we went all in on Hartford Avenue. So from the start, we've made really thoughtful decisions to extend the budget, and that includes the transit hub. And we had items in there that we took out of the budget to reflect our concerns about the cost. I mean, I'm not sure, you can't have a bus stop without a bench. The tire change thing for the bikes, that's just a really nice thing to have that most communities have, and it's under $3,000. There's really nothing that I think is really extra in the transit hub. We've reduced the cost of the trees by, I forget what the decrease was, significant, like over 4,000. And we took the time and effort, and including all the time of our engineer, to design something that would be nice for the community and directly relates to the community connectivity grant. I also like to say, if we don't fulfill this, I'm not sure how the state will look at us for future community connectivity grants if we keep playing around with this. We need to get it done if we're going to do it, and we need to show our good faith to the state that we intended from the start to complete this thing.
Right now, our short-term task is to make the numbers mesh. That's our short-term task. That's as I understand it properly. So we need to separate the change orders and make sure that Tim's reconciliation and Mary Jo's reconciliation and the committee's reconciliation somehow are the mesh together. And I think I'm hearing part of the problem is being in the contingencies and the holdbacks that may be one of the big issues. It's already added into the committee's budget. Tim added it over again. So that may be one of the big issues. It may be a very simple, line item that's just being overlooked. So.
Well, I mean, Tim, you've got a finance director right there. She has been included in this also. I don't want this committee being held to some claim that isn't true. We have been very transparent with the costs, and we have been available. And I was on the Board of Selectmen to explain anything. So I don't want the argument coming back saying we didn't give you information, because we did. And then you've spent a lot of time with Kurt. And that cost we are eating too, to help get on the same page. So I think it's fair to say the most is 50,000. I don't think it's going to be 50,000 unless we, and I told you that 2 weeks ago, unless we have some surprises with Martin Rivero now with having to start and restart.
Well, we'll get it reconciled. Let's do that.
How do you want to go about that? You want to sit down with Mary Jo? You want to have
Say
Nicole
so.
sit down?
You know what? I really don't think Tim and I communicate very well. I'm just gonna be really honest for the record. So I've tried, and I'm gonna suggest, Frank, that you guys seem to get along and see eye to eye better than he and I. And I don't want the project to suffer anymore. So you have all the budgets, Frank. I'll send you my latest ineligible cost reckoning that we've been following based on what I saw from Tim. And maybe the two of you can square this.
I'll work with Tim. I'll try to get something done. We'll figure it out.
Good, because
Hopefully we can
we
get
want
that
to get it done.
accomplished.
That's, I think, what's going to happen. Thank you.
I'll talk, Mary Jo, you can bring me up to speed on some of that stuff, and although I've seen it all, it's just
Yeah, I'll
Good,
send it
yeah.
out again. Okay, thank you, Frank.
take a look at it.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's move on to the punch list so we can get through this. Kurt sent everybody updated punch list. I think it was dated the 16th. The first thing is to reconstruct the bituminous aprons. These are the Hartford Avenue bituminous aprons that had to be extended because they were done originally, but they didn't meet town standard, similar to the Port Aransas situation. I was down there again today, and as Kurt put on his list, they've been done. I know he wants to inspect them. That's right, Kurt? You still want to get down there and look at those?
I did my inspection on Tuesday. I'm comfortable with the new bit aprons. I think they look good. The one thing that they still need to do is on a few of them, and this has definitely been discussed with the contractor, add a little bit of topsoil at the edges where there's some drop-offs.
Got it. I noticed that today, that they did some topsoil. They're going to have to do some more. You're right.
Yep, and then the other item that I emailed them on Tuesday after I emailed the committee, that there was a fair amount of bituminous debris all over the sidewalk that really needed to be cleaned up. So I passed that on. I'm not sure, Mary Jo, if you noticed, has it been cleaned up? But
I don't think it caught my
Okay.
eye.
I will certainly, when I communicate with them tomorrow, ask.
Okay. Quite honestly, everything was pretty wet down there, so I don't think it even jumped.
Okay.
So thank you. Water meter valve box have been covered with sod. Inspect and expose meters and valve boxes as required. Those were not completed. I can confirm they're not completed on Hartford Avenue. I'm assuming that same goes for Shore. So if we could please remind them. I know we had the one email from, I want to say it was 274 Shore, the home that had the driveway that was added. They had complained that their valve box had been covered. So I don't know if there's any other homes on Shore Avenue, Shore Road rather, but I know that they need to check it out.
Yeah, and for the committee's information, there was a couple of an email exchange essentially with the contractor where I expressed the absolute critical nature of getting those valve boxes uncovered, indicating that there are people that need to shut their water off for the winter.
I
Yep.
did notice one of them, there's a blue flag on one of the locations.
Yeah, I noticed, and actually when I was down there on Tuesday, a Connecticut Water truck drove by. They didn't stop, but I'm not sure if I noticed where the blue flag was, it was excavated out. I'm not sure if that was the contractor or if that was Connecticut Water. I don't know.
I got 2 stories on that one too. I happened to be down there that day.
Okay.
Martin Lavero had 3 guys working north of where that flag was. And they indicated that Connecticut Water did it, and the Connecticut Water guy told me they didn't do that. I suspect that another Connecticut Water guy did it. There were a couple trucks that day, but nevertheless, the extenders weren't added. When I flagged down a Connecticut Water person, I took him over to the butchers too. We exposed their water valve, but it wasn't flagged. It's not really that bad, but it's potentially a little trip hazard because it's a little hole. So they need to get down there and finish that for sure.
Yeah, I'll bring that up in my discussion with the contractor tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. The next was 27 Hartford Avenue vinyl fence. That was completed. As you know, I'll know the owner is really happy. New mailbox post at 23 Hartford Avenue was completed. We got a thumbs up from that one either. The next items I have marked as all not completed. Remove turf reinforcement material, rake seed, install new turf reinforcement material at 29. That's not done. Remove some more cement deposits from vinyl fence at 31 Hartford Avenue.
I'm not sure if that has been completed or not. We did have a discussion with their concrete foreman. Oh boy, this is back in June. And he said that he had the ability to clean it. I'm not sure if they ever did.
Yeah, okay. The decorative signpost at Hartford and Botch, we've already talked about, and stop signpost, that's not there. Change order 2, the decorative signpost with stop signs, street signs at Hartford and Shore is not there. The next bunch of boxes refer to Shore Road in particular. Complete the pavement markings. I think those are done, aren't they?
I think, but what I wanted to do is wait until the sign relocations were complete to really give it a thorough inspection.
So
I
they-
do believe they're done.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got to shove off to a 5:30, but catch up.
Right, Tim, I'll be in touch tomorrow, the next day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Number 10, complete existing signpost relocations. Those will be checked on, obviously. And then the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are the sidewalk repairs that the DOT requested. I happened to be down there when Martin Lavero was working on them and the DOT came by. They seem to be pretty satisfied. So I'm assuming everything will check out there. Is that what you assume, Kurt, too?
Yes, and by the way, my plan was to go down on Wednesday to do an inspection, but I'll only do that if there's been a fair number of these items completed. I don't want to spend the committee's money by making numerous visits.
Yeah.
So I'll communicate with the contractor tomorrow. And if it sounds like there's a fair amount of stuff, we can, because we are getting so late in the season here, every day is a gift.
Yeah.
With the weather.
Appreciate that. I haven't seen anybody down there since the day they were working on those.
Okay.
Um, remove and reinstall bituminous concrete lip curbing north side of island between station 12 and 13 by Teddy's Pizza. Of course, I think they were going to do that when they did the work at Teddy's, so that's not.
Correct.
So that has to be part of the discussion, I guess, too. The change order, one work, this was the 55 feet of new bituminous concrete lip adjacent to Shore and Cross, which we know was installed, but they were going to backfill with some loam and seed, right?
Correct. And I don't think that's been done yet.
I put a question mark by that too. And then I had the bituminous debris that you mentioned, and then the portal lances. Is there anything else we've missed? Anybody have any questions on the punch list? My question is, do they plan, obviously, to come back this week and finish up?
Right, and hopefully, in fact, I received a call during this meeting from the contractor, so, I probably won't get him at this point. I'll call him first thing in the morning.
Okay. That's all I had on that. Does anybody else have anything else on the punch list?
No, you didn't mention the stop sign at Swan Avenue Extension, right?
I did. We know it's not there. So he's gonna have to find out about that.
Well, it's there, it's just on the wrong side of the street. It's on the inbound side rather than, it's on the left-hand side rather than the right-hand side.
Huh. Do we have that? I guess I'm thinking,
No, the sign was there. They just put it up on the wrong side. Maybe they, these people live, we got a bunch of English people over here that guys driving on the wrong side of the road, but.
Yes, that's the one right at the town-owned property between, yeah. We've pointed that out, and in fact, when we met him down there,
yeah,
that was a few Fridays ago to sort of re-kick off the project. We walked right by it and pointed it out that it still hasn't been relocated to the right side of the road, co-located with the stop bar.
so I added that to the list.
Yeah, and that's under that line item, sign relocations. There's essentially two of them. It's that, and it's the
Okay.
yield at crosswalk sign.
Okay, all right,
And that would be the westbound yield at crosswalk sign.
okay. I know it's laying on the ground. I saw that.
Oh, that's the eastbound sign. It sounds like that keeps getting hit.
Yeah, that
No, the westbound one was laying on
Oh,
the ground.
boy. Okay.
westbound one got hit last week.
I think, right.
Yeah.
It looks like it got hit.
Yeah, and then, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the one that's eastbound, all right, the one by the Easy Mart, I did tell Public Works that that's on us. And Jim, or I'm sorry, Public Works is aware that it looks like that's on us to fix it because we fixed it once. All right, next we have to approve our minutes from the meeting of November 8th. I have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you,
Second,
Jim. Thank you, Eric. Any discussion? All in favor?
aye,
Thank you for approval. It's unanimous. I guess next meetings will depend on what we hear from the contractor tomorrow. And I can't thank you enough for hanging in there with us and for reaching out to them. I know it's been a slog with getting them to respond. Quite honestly, the contractor, I still feel positive about, but this last few months has been very, very difficult to get communication. I know there's a lot going on in industry. I get that, and we've talked about it, but it's been really hard. Kurt's gone above and beyond to try and help them, to provide them tools to respond to us. And nobody wants this done more than all of us, but it's been difficult. So thank you, Kurt.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Also, if appreciate you taking on talking with the state. Like to make sure that we're.
I'll report back on
Bloody-
those conversations.
Okay, all right. If there isn't anything else, I'd like to wish everybody a really happy Thanksgiving. Extend my gratitude to everybody who's worked on this project so diligently and with such a commitment from the start. I'm just very grateful for all of you. So thank you.
Happy
Thank you
Thanksgiving.
as well.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn,
I'll make that
Got it.
motion.
Frank and Bonnie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Night. Happy Thanksgiving.
And I,
Night.
Thank you.
I know.
Bye.